¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday. Welcome, everybody. Derry Bennett, Michael Hassler, Heat, how's it going? Ooh. Jeez. I forgot I had put my cell phone on volume. Sorry about that, folks. I hope everyone's having an awesome Wednesday. I do believe it is Wednesday. Yes, it is. Whew. I am tired, folks. Today we gotta keep a tight schedule. I gotta skedaddle at 7 o'clock. I'm gonna make some runs to the store. Firefly, welcome. Howdy. It's just banned from the Senate then. Okay, I think they should be doing work anyways. True. Alright, we'll talk about that, definitely, don't worry. Interestingly enough, the free speech, the free speech warriors are, a little bit quiet. A little bit quiet. Alright, folks, let's get it started. Before I do so, if you want to support the channel, there are many different ways. You can follow here on Twitch. You can subscribe to the YouTube, like the stream. I see you guys. Thank you. There is a merch store. Join the Discord, folks. This weekend is the movie night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Join the Discord, and there is a event already set up. Just click on... I remember now. Derry Bennett, you wanted to have some kind of notification. If you click on the actual event, I think that will give you some type of notification before the event starts. I guess that's one way of going about it, since we don't have like direct notifications for that. But in any case, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, join the Discord. All right, folks. I think we should probably start with this one, right? I think so.
DeSantis wasn't wrong, but we're so...
I mean, cut, end the segment. All right, I think we need to... We heard everything that we needed to hear, right? Pretty much, right? All right, well, on to the next segment. I'm just kidding. Isn't he irrelevant yet? Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. He's still there.
Tribal now? The left will overlook child if the guy from the wrong party calls it out.
The guy from the wrong party is literally calling queer people predators, dude. Bill who?
You just got a small taste of an insane new rules segment from Bill Maher, and the longer it goes on, the worse it gets, and it gets really bad. Now, I already knew that Bill Maher was gone, but it really wasn't until that clip that I realized, oh, he's gone. Like, there's no coming back. His brain has completely rotted to the point where he's now just a standard anti-Trump Republican, which isn't necessarily surprising because he's a wealthy white dude who's never worked a real job a day in his life, so it's not shocking to see him become increasingly fascistic in his old age. But still, the rhetoric here is bad, even by Bill Maher standards, even like by 2020 era plus Bill Maher standards, because he's going to accuse the left of supporting child abuse and give DeSantis credit for being against child abuse.
Right, which is just code for pedo jacketing queer people as a whole. Kamikaze, welcome. Bill Nah. Yeah. Bill Nye, a better Bill.
Now, in order to get to this point, he makes a lot of logical leaps based on a fictionalized
Yeah, you have to. In order to get that point, yeah, it's standard procedure to do that, right? In order to get that point, you're gonna have to make a lot of logical leaps, because none of this is based on any type of logic.
caricature of the left that he made up in his head, and he concludes by essentially arguing that the fascists were actually right about LGBTQ plus people being groomers. So he starts by talking about shocking revelations detailed in the documentary Quiet on Set, which talks about the sexual exploitation of the Nickelodeon child stars that a lot of us grew up with. Now, I found the allegations from this utterly appalling. I haven't watched the documentary yet, but I've heard about it. And it's disturbing. It's sad, right? Most people, I think, regardless of their political affiliation,
Right. Like I don't know, man. I saw like some of the discourse, and man, whew boy.
and reacted to the documentary in the same way, with disgust. But that doesn't stop Bill Maher from making it a partisan point while contradictorily saying how bad partisan bias is. It's just confusing, but let's watch.
So I don't know if this documentary is the talk of your town, but it is out here because it didn't just expose a dangerous workplace. It also exposed hypocrisy. Because
What?
it must be pointed out that when the evil governor of Florida
Yes. Yes. What does this have to do with Quiet on Set?
was saying the exact same thing about kids and creepy stuff at Disney that liberals now find intolerable.
What did Disney do to sexualize children? Like this is delusional. This is delusional. Yeah, delusional time with confused white guy.
At Nickelodeon, he was dismissed as a hick and a bigot. But why would a kids' content factory like Disney be all that different than the one at Nickelodeon?
Because they're different companies? Question mark? What does this have to do with Disney? Like, if Disney had their own allegations of like their own childhood programs, like we could talk about those. But this was like specifically, if I remember correctly, the Quiet on Set stuff, isn't even like Nickelodeon as a whole, as like a broad thing. I think maybe I'm wrong, but from what I saw, it's mostly due to the show, due to the people around the show iCarly. I mean, like even Steve from Blue's Clues came out and said like, yeah, you know, where I worked in Nick Jr., Nick Kids, or Nick Jr., I think that's what it was called. It was a completely different thing. Yeah. Do I smell pizza? This is about as logical as Pizzagate. Like saying that because a specific channel or specific media company is going like through this through these allegations, through this Quiet on Set documentary, and then try to say like, oh well, you know, is it that out of out of pocket to say that a completely separate company is doing the same thing, and that's why DeSantis is correct? Like, bro. Yeah, someone tell Q.
So the implication is the left criticized DeSantis for accusing Disney of sexualizing kids. Therefore, they must automatically approve of the sexualization of children. Now, maybe that's persuasive if you have no additional context, but it's a disingenuous argument because he's stripping away the context. DeSantis only accused Disney of sexualizing kids after they begrudgingly condemned his Don't Say Gay law. Now, I say begrudgingly because Disney only condemned the law after they faced backlash because they funded the campaigns of Republican lawmakers in Florida who wrote that law. But after they condemned the law, that's when DeSantis accused them of sexualizing kids.
Right.
Now, in response, Disney CEO Bob Iger said the notion that Disney is in any way sexualizing children, quite frankly, is preposterous and inaccurate. Now, DeSantis then responded on Twitter with a video of a Disney executive supposedly advocating for the sexualization of children. And specifically, this is what she said that he says was sexualization
Oh, Jesus.
of children.
I'm here as a mother of two queer children, actually, one transgender child and one pansexual child, and also as a leader. We have many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, and yet we don't have enough leads and narratives in which gay characters just get to be characters, and not have to be about.
Yeah. So this is sexualizing children, apparently.
Gay stories, and going forward, I certainly will be more so. I know that we will be, and I hope this is a moment where, the 50% of the tears, sorry, are coming. We just don't allow each other to go backwards.
So this lady is saying, as a mother of two queer children, our content hasn't been the most representative of LGBTQ plus people, and we're going to correct that. So this smoking gun DeSantis provided doesn't prove Disney is sexualizing children. In fact, to believe that that is indeed the case, you have to buy into the narrative that mere representation is tantamount to sexualizing children. But if it's true for queer characters, it also must be true for straight characters as well. So if a character with two mommies is tantamount to sexualization, then so too is a character with a mommy and a daddy.
No, but that's not how that works with these people, because then you would have to actually apply logic and principles. That's not a thing that's happening.
If a character that's trans is inherently sexual, the same must be true for a cis character, right?
Nope.
This all stems from the idea that exposure to queer people influences someone to be gay or trans, but that's not how it works.
Right. Also, like, it's all just to hammer down the same old, repurposed, gay people are predators kind of deal. That's it. That's all this is. There's nothing much to it except bigotry. There's nothing much to it except hateful bigotry.
Furthermore, if you're saying that queer representation is tantamount to the sexualization of children, you're effectively running cover for actual pedophiles by downplaying actual sexual exploitation of children. But Maher does bring up legitimate issues with Disney, and these are issues that DeSantis didn't mention, but yet he still gives DeSantis credit, even though DeSantis did not mention any of this in his accusations that Disney was sexualizing children.
Yeah, and he's not going to. Hello, person that's probably not going to last very long here.
2014 CNN report discovered that at least 35 Disney employees had been arrested for sex crimes against children, and in 2021, Disney child star
Arrest. You know, as in they're getting arrested.
Allison Stoner confessed she only narrowly survived the toddler to train wreck pipeline. The next year, child star Cole Sprouse told the New York Times that young actresses at the Disney Channel were heavily sexualized from an early age. You know, Willie Sutton said he robbed banks because that's where the money is. And the reason we find pedophiles in the Boy Scouts and the Rectory and kids' TV is that's where the kids are. DeSantis wasn't wrong. But we're so tribal now, the left will overlook child fucking if the guy from the wrong party calls it out. After Brian Peck, who was one of the lead creeps at Nickelodeon, served 16 months in prison for the molesting he did there. Disney hired him, naturally, to work on a children's series.
So according to Bill Maher, the left would be critical of DeSantis if he hypothetically chose to call any of those negative things about Disney out. But he didn't. And that's not his criticism of Disney.
Right. Correct. I hate this boomer whisperer freak. Yep.
His criticism of Disney and his allegations of sexual exploitation of children is very different. If DeSantis chose to call out any of that, I think that every single leftist would agree with.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know about this, by the way. I didn't know about any of that. If that's the case, yeah, absolutely. All of those people should be freaking investigated. Absolutely, but that's not what this is about.
Because I think it is alarming and incredibly irresponsible of Disney to hire this person. And of course, there should be an
100%.
external investigation into them, because it wouldn't surprise me if the same stuff that went on at Nickelodeon also went on at Disney. But apparently, DeSantis is the hero here and we're the villains because he said Disney is sexualizing children. But even though he meant it in a different way, since we criticized him for his way, we're bad and we support that. It's so convoluted, when it comes to the argument that he's making here. But what's ironic about this is that DeSantis didn't just ignore all of that. He threw gay people under the bus and effectively ran cover for actual pedophiles like Brian Peck by making it seem like an innocent mom who just wants more representation for her queer children at Disney is the real problem, when there's literal pedophiles like Brian Peck working for the company. Like, if he called that out, I don't think anyone would be criticizing him. We would all agree that that's bad and egregious.
Correct. Yeah, if I had seen that before, then I would understand where that started to come from. But yeah, absolutely, that's pretty freaking disgusting.
But we all know that DeSantis doesn't really care about sexualizing kids. He just hates queer people.
Yep.
But in order to
Exactly. That's it. There's nothing more to it. There's nothing more convoluted. There's nothing convoluted about it. It's just this. It's simply a case of worst person, made a good point, but you agree, but nobody's exactly. But that's the thing. He's making it seem, like we wouldn't condemn that, right? He's making it seem like he wouldn't condemn that. Ron DeSantis is not talking about any of those things, because nobody would criticize him for that. Yeah.
believe that DeSantis was speaking out against the sexualization of children at Disney, one would also have to buy into the premise that queer people pose a danger to children. And the question is, does Bill Maher do that? And the answer, unfortunately, is yes, explicitly so. Bill Maher is going to unironically argue that queer people being in the presence of children is inappropriate. So he brings up how the left is hypocritical because they're against child beauty pageants, but for drag queen story hour, which is bad in his opinion. And then he goes on to basically say that this is all an effort to make kids gay and trans. I'm not
Whew. Yikes.
making this up. Let's watch.
Not that there's anything wrong with being a drag queen, but maybe it's time to admit that sometimes drag queen story hour is more for the queen than the kids.
The heck does that mean? If you think that like dressing in drag is inherently sexual, you may need to take some introspection, dude. It might mean that you find that sexual, because that's a little bit weird, my dude. That you would think that this would be inherently sexual for children? Question mark.
Sure, kids love a clown, but does the clown have to have tits? And when I see a 5-year-old tipping at a bar under a sign that says it's not going to lick itself, do I have to pretend that's cool in order to keep my liberal ID card? But at a certain point, inclusion becomes promotion. That's why endlessly talking about gender to 6-year-olds isn't just inappropriate. It's what the law would call entrapment.
Endless Wait. What did he? Endless talking?
At a bar under a sign that says it's not going to lick itself? Do I have to pretend that's cool in order to keep my liberal ID card? But at a certain point, inclusion becomes promotion. That's why
Inclusion becomes promotion. The ego boost, I think kids are introduced to something a little different from the ordinary. I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
endlessly talking about gender to 6-year-olds isn't just inappropriate. It's what the law would call entrapment.
No one, like, he pretends that, like, there's endless, like, the only thing that's being talked about is gender, and that's what's going to I guess cause kids to be queer.
Suggesting someone into something they wouldn't otherwise do. And if you think that some of that isn't going on with gender in schools, you're not watching enough TikTok videos.
I pledge allegiance.
And talking that talking about gender is somehow sexual or something. Correct.
To the queers.
I'm not allowed to be out as trans non-binary at school. My response to this is to be as obnoxiously queer as possible.
There's a certain kind of activist these days who wants to take heterosexuality, old school, old-fashioned, boring, minding its own business heterosexuality, and lump it in with patriarchy and sexism.
What are you talking about? Dude, you're the one that's not minding your own business, bro. Jesus.
And racism, and tell kids, wouldn't it be cool if you were anything but that? It also seems to be the theme of kind of a lot of kids' books these days.
Yeah, they're transing the kids, folks. That's what's happening. Yeah, someone take Grandpa back to the nursing home.
I never used the phrase gay agenda because I thought it was mostly nonsense. And it is, mostly. But a director for Disney Television Animation did say after she was hired,
the showrunners were super welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda. I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness. No one would stop me and no one was trying to stop me.
Look, I'm all for adding queerness wherever. I put some in my drink before I came out here tonight. But maybe we should think about.
Does Bill know how many kids' books are published every year? It's a huge percentage of publishing. Yeah, no, we're not gonna ask those type of questions because then we start unraveling the argument, right? If we actually start looking at the facts, all of this becomes mush.
Giving kids a break from our culture wars for a minute, or at least until the election is over.
But here's the thing, Bill. Gay and trans people aren't making political statements by simply existing. And the only reason why it's a culture war is because conservatives are trying to erase us from the culture by fear-mongering about the danger we supposedly pose to kids. But inclusion and representation is an attempt to remedy the bigotry that queer people experience in society. That's why people with queer children, like that lady at Disney, is saying, I want to include more queer characters because I want my kids to know that they're normal, that they're seen.
Right. And meanwhile, as Firefly just posted, yeah. None of this, no, you're never going to hear a peep. You're never going to hear a peep. By the way, I don't have an issue with dads taking their sons to Hooters. The issue is the hypocrisy, right? Because at the end of the day, what it really just boils down to is that you just don't want to see queer people. That's it. That's what it boils down to with these people. Because you're not going to hear a peep, from these types at all. As long as it's not done to be gross and shit towards the women.
I don't scoff at heterosexuality every time I see it on the TV, which is literally every time I turn on the television, because I don't think less of straight people. I don't think, man, I don't want to see that. The only reason why you would oppose representation is because you see inclusion of queer people as abnormal, right? And you're prejudiced against them. Now, it seems like that's now the case with Bill Maher. He views homosexuality and trans identities as like some sort of statement and not just who people are, right? But let's go through the entirety of that clip because he makes a lot of terrible arguments. First and foremost, he objects to drag queen story hour because drag queens have tits. Okay? Well, I mean, I guess that you can choose to remedy the situation by just not taking your kids to drag queen story hour. It's not mandatory, right? You don't have to take your kids to these events. But why is that inherently harmful or sexual? Why are drag queens a danger to kids?
He thinks that they are inherently sexual. Bill Maher.
He doesn't make that point. Some parents choose to take their children to drag queen story hour because they want their children to be taught that acceptance and tolerance is good, that people who society deems as weird should be accepted. That's why I would imagine they would take their kids to an event, but it's completely optional. He also brings up the kids tipping drag queens with the "it's not gonna lick itself" sign. And the fact that he even brought this up is so astonishing to me because he's 3 years late to the party on this. And aside from that, there wasn't a single person on his entire staff that did a 5-second Google search to learn that the "it's not gonna lick itself" sign is a tagline of a literal ice cream company, Cauldron Ice Cream, who was catering the event. I mean, nobody thought, hey, maybe we should look into this. Now, look, out of context, I think that that sign was inappropriate myself, but we have the context now. That story is extremely old. But the reason why he brought that up is because it leads people to be more suspicious of queer people, which is
right, which is the whole point. It's the whole point. Yep, that's it.
What he wants. He wants you to think that queer inclusion is tantamount to promotion and even entrapment. But in making this point, he's implicitly accepting the right's argument that being gay or trans is inherently a choice when it's not. You can't entice children into being gay or trans any more than you can entice them into being straight or cis. You either are or you aren't. If it were a choice, nobody would be gay or trans because all that we see is hetero and cis normativity in every single fucking facet of our society and culture.
Correct.
Now, people who imply that it is a choice could test that out. Bill Maher could put himself in a situation where he's enticed by homosexuality and suck a guy off, or he can dress up as a woman for a year and see if after enough time he starts to like it. Odds are he wouldn't like it and he'd never feel comfortable in clothes of the opposite gender because that's just not who he is. And what's sad is I shouldn't have to explain any of this to Bill Maher because these are arguments he's made himself as a longtime LGBT.
Right, but he knows this. He knows this. That's the thing.
Plus ally. But he's even fear-mongering about the gay agenda now by citing a video of a Disney executive half seriously saying that she has a not at all secret gay agenda because she's trying to add as much queer representation as she possibly can in Disney shows. How scandalous. In other words, the gay agenda is effectively more representation. Ooh, how scary. By that logic, you can argue that Bill Maher has a straight agenda since he's in favor of more straight representation as opposed to gay and cis representation. But buying into the idea that a gay agenda exists at all is kind of this like Trojan horse because like once you accept that premise, you then believe that the reason why there's this agenda is because they're coming for the kids and they want to turn kids gay, yada, yada, so on and so forth. It's the classic gay predator myth. And it is a low IQ argument used by conservatives to galvanize evangelicals. But for some reason, it works on Bill Maher, who is not an evangelical, who's been at odds with evangelicals for most of his life. But all of a sudden, he's saying, maybe they had a point all these decades ago, and I'm only realizing it now. It's so ridiculous. But remember, at the beginning, he argued that the left was in favor of child fucking because DeSantis came out against it. The examples that he proved debunked his own argument. He never demonstrates that. But contrary to the argument he's making, the left is not in favor of child sex abuse and child exploitation. I've never seen a single pro-child sex abuse leftist ever. And Twitter is a very big place. You can see all kinds of lefties. I've never encountered one that's pro-child abuse, right? But I'm sure that actual child predators and pedophiles are probably thankful to Maher because he's now also adding to the chorus of right-wing bigots fear-mongering about queer people, and that's good for them. because it takes the heat off of them. It takes the eyes off of them, draws suspicion away from them and onto a group of innocent people who just want to live their fucking lives. But in conclusion, Bill Maher just didn't sufficiently demonstrate that DeSantis is against the sexualization of kids. I'm sure that he is, if I had to guess, but he didn't make that argument, right? Nor did Bill Maher prove that queer people are in favor of sexualizing kids, nor did he prove that they would disapprove of DeSantis if he actually condemned real child sex abuse. Like, I don't think anyone would be like, DeSantis, shut the fuck up about this. Like, this is bad. It's so absurd to me because, like, this is the ultimate straw man. He's not even trying to make a cogent argument.
Because you can't. You can't. There's no logic behind any of this because there can't be. It doesn't exist. And that's kind of the point. In fact, I would say it's necessary. The less logical you are, the better for conservatism.
But he's trying to portray himself as an enlightened centrist who's just calling balls and stripes, and he's bold because he can condemn both sides, and he's the grown-up. But I mean, he is literally just making things up about the left and the right to validate pre-existing biases that he already has about both sides. But that doesn't make him a bold truth teller. It makes him a pathetic hack, and not just any type of hack, a conservative hack. Because if you're not even aligned with liberals on basic social issues at this point, you're literally just a conservative. And I mean, if you're promoting the gay predator myth, you're a conservative. So all that's left for Bill Maher at this point to do is to just own it. Because you're not a leftist. You're not even a liberal. You are just a standard conservative. And as soon as Trump is out of the equation, I'm sure he's just going to be a registered Republican because that's really the only thing keeping him from jumping all in with the Republican Party because he hates Trump. But I mean, you're already there, bud, so you might as well just embrace it.
True. No, like he just likes to put himself up on a pedestal. Yeah.
House has passed the Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan aid package, basically. And
I think by this point, it has already been signed, if I'm correct.
When Mike Johnson, as Speaker of the House, basically voted to avert a government shutdown a few months ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene had filed a motion to vacate him, which is what happened with Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy was successfully vacated, led by Matt Gaetz and Nancy Mace and some others. But Marjorie Taylor Greene did this in retaliation for basically him doing any budget deal with the Democratic Senate and the Democratic president. He was punished for governing. But it's this kind of delayed punishment that's been hanging over Mike Johnson's head, and she's been extraordinarily basically.
Do it, Marge. Do it, okay? Do it.
Dogmatic in her opposition to Ukraine funding. That's a Democratic priority. The Ukraine funding in the House passed with every single Democratic vote, so she is standing in opposition to it. But when she filed that motion to vacate Mike Johnson, she did not prioritize it. So there's still a question as to whether they're going to be able to do it or if they'll move forward with it. She has this looming threat. And she went on Maria Bartiromo's show on Sunday to expand on what she might do next as it relates to Mike Johnson's speakership.
Welcome back, and I am back with Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, Congresswoman, you wanted Mike Johnson out. What is your alternative plan?
Our plan is this: we have to give the American people a reason to trust us and fight for us. The American people are supporting President Trump to be the next president of the United States because they saw they.
Muted. Sorry. This is a match that nobody wanted. Okay, nobody wants President Trump. Nobody wants President Biden. It's absurd. Looks like Biden signed it around lunchtime. Gotcha. Okay, so yes, he did sign it today. Let me rewind that.
We have to give the American people a reason to trust us and fight for us. The American people are...
Marjorie, people want freaking healthcare. Okay? Are you fighting to get people freaking healthcare? No, you're not. Are you fighting for people to get student debt relief? Medical debt relief? No, you're not. Are you fighting for the American people to get higher wages? No, you're not.
We're supporting President Trump to be the next president of the United States because they've seen him in action. He fought against the Democrat agenda. He put America first. They desperately
He didn't do any of that.
Want him to lead this country again because they trust him and they know he will do that. Mike Johnson has betrayed America. He's betrayed Republican voters. Under his leadership, he's passed the Democrat agenda.
True. So, vacate him then. Do it, Marge. Do it.
Biden administration's policies and fully funded them. We're going to fight in Congress to do everything we can to stop this type of uniparty leadership. Mike Johnson's speakership is over. He needs to do the right thing to resign and allow us to move forward in a controlled process. Yeah. If he doesn't do so, he will be vacated.
Well, with all due respect, you didn't give me a plan for the speaker's role. And again, does this mean you are going to file?
with all due respect, yeah, it's all good. But what's the plan, Marge? There is none.
That motion at some point?
It's coming regardless of what Mike Johnson decides to do. And we have 3 more Republicans joining us for the special elections coming up very soon. So people need to know this can happen.
Playing her off. That's hilarious. So the problem with Marge's plan here is that you have Democrats, like even Ro Khanna, coming out saying that he might vote no on a motion to vacate, which, like, by the way, I don't agree with. I think the Democrats should be, standing in opposition.
Correct. Yes, the Democratic Party should be completely unanimous to oust the Republican speaker. What do you like? This is so frustrating. Like, the Democrats. Never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity, huh? When she says the American people, like, which American people? Well, I can take a gander. What you can always rely on is the Dems. What can you always rely on the Dems to do? Let you down, yeah. What if having Johnson is still what if having Johnson still in pisses MAGA even more so they stay salty? No, that's not what this is about. Like, I don't care if MAGA is salty. I want them to be ineffective. I want them to be destroyed. And, like, if the Democratic Party makes a unanimous statement like, hey, if you follow this motion to vacate, we're getting rid of the speaker and trying to push our own, and trying to push a Democratic speaker, then, like, the saltier they get, the more ineffective they look. I mean, like, actually ineffective, not looking, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but not looking ineffective. I want them to be ineffective. I want them to constantly be doing this circus. I don't want them to govern, because if they govern, if they actually govern and they actually start being more cohesive, not good, not great, not good. Yeah, they're fighting amongst themselves, literally. Exactly. That's what I want. That's good. That's good. And the Democratic Party should promote that by saying, like, yeah, we're gonna oust the speaker, and good luck. Good luck, because threatening to be unanimous, to vote unanimously to oust the speaker forces the other side of the Republican Civil War to be even more angry with each other. And if they vacate the speakership, who knows how many votes and who ends up as the next speaker, right? And it could be a Dem. It could be a Dem. Johnson could prolong that even more, but if it's vacated, I don't mind either way, because we're gonna have a circus again around the vote for speaker, right? And it only blows back on Republicans, by the way. Like continuing to do this only blows back on Republicans. This only makes them look bad. So there's no reason
to any effort to save the Republicans from themselves. I mean,
like the only thing that could possibly make me convince me to that the Dems should save the Speaker Johnson is if they get absolute guarantees of like something so critical. Like I know that they pass like some level of child credits, but like an example could be like, hey, you're gonna have to put this for a bill. Like we're gonna open up healthcare bills or something so like absurd. Like actually getting healthcare on the table that we know that like Johnson isn't gonna go for it. Yeah. You know what MAGA stands for? Making attorneys get attorneys. They're getting concessions with Johnson, and big ones. Keeping the job could be one of the conditions for Johnson to make concessions. Who knows? It has to be huge concessions in order for me to be like, yeah, I guess the Dems should save Johnson. Other than that, they should absolutely threaten. To unanimously vacate him. If you're against MAGA, then that's on you. Cool story, bro. Do you know where you are? They're not getting anything. You're against America. True. They're not getting anything from Johnson. Then, yeah, definitely vote to vacate. The Israel-Ukraine package is one of those. Yeah, but I'm kind of interested on, like, getting healthcare. I'm kind of interested on getting, like, college, things like that. Like, oh, wow, bipartisan support for more freaking money for war. Yeah. Bipartisan support for war. Cool. If you're for MAGA, that's on you. True. Those are things that Republican donors wanted passed. That could come later since Gaza is more pressing for re-election. Well, that ship has sailed. I can assure you. I don't know. I don't think Biden's coming back from that. In my opinion.
I mean, let them fight. Let them vacate another speaker and see what happens, especially ahead.
Yes, let them fight. Biden's polls are improving with each month. Yeah, I saw the improvement. He is now at a whopping 0.5% aggregate, or 0.6% ahead of Trump right now. Oh, man. Yeah. Aggregate. Okay, aggregate.
Of an election where they're not going to get anything done regardless. I mean, they're killing anything because it appears like it's a win for Biden. But I've lost that argument, I guess, because you have even progressive representatives saying that they'll save him because he put Ukraine funding through.
That's not enough, man. That's not enough. This is still far from the election. Nah. I've heard this argument so many times. Which makes those inaccurate relative to what's 2 to 3 months prior. Yeah, and they said that 2 to 3 months before, and the polls haven't improved vastly. It's still a coin toss. And 2 or 3 months prior to that, when people were saying, oh, there's a year out of the election. Guess what? Guess what? It's still a freaking toss-up. It's still a toss-up. Nobody's saying it's a guarantee. It's just improving significantly. I have a problem with significantly. Just 4 months back, they said Biden had no chance. It's still a coin toss. I don't know who's saying like it's just like a done deal, but I'm saying that it's the polls are still relatively the same, and that's a problem when you're literally 6 months out, 7 months out of the 6 months by this time, or close to 7 months. Whatever. I can't math right now. I'm tired. It's been a literal coin toss this entire time. The polls have been in Trump's favor on aggregate. They moved towards Biden. Yeah, 0.6. I don't know if you've seen, but it's like 0.6. That's not enough. If you show me a consistent movement that is above approaching double digits, then I can be like, yeah, you know what? This is a slam dunk. Because guess what? The polls looked vastly different, in 2020. This is progressive improvement. It's still far from the election. Nobody's talking about a landslide. No, I'm not saying it's going to be a landslide. I'm saying that the polls haven't improved as much. I have a problem with saying significant improvement, when in reality it's still anybody's bet, and that's never a good thing. That's never a good thing for Dems, right? That's never a good thing for Dems. We're talking about winning the polls by literal points of percentages, right? Like we're talking about Trump polls winning by 3%, 4%, 5%, switching to Biden polls winning with the same margin of error. It isn't telling me that, oh, okay, we've got a clear trend moving. It's a coin toss. It's a coin toss, and and a coin toss is usually favorable to Republicans. Having a very, very close election is always a bad thing for Democrats. We're talking about a noticeable shift. It's a sign Trump is regressing. Well, listen, man. I don't want Trump to win. I don't. It turns out that I actually don't like fascism. But 4 months back, I heard all the time Biden will lose. Biden will lose. Now it's not the case.
Regardless, I don't even know what this is. It is what is pissing off a lot of Republicans, which is what it was for Nancy Mace. It's an opportunity.
And also, here's a follow-up question: what are the polls looking at for swing states that actually determine the election in the Electoral College? What are those polls looking at? Yeah. 4 months back, it was a toss-up slightly favoring Trump. Now it's a fucking toss-up slightly favoring Trump. Yeah. 0.3 favoring Trump.
Need to get on camera. Matt Gaetz is an opportunity to get on camera. And a way to look tough to the Republican base when there's really no avenue that Mike Johnson could take that would satisfy them, because they want to shut the government down and they want all these budget cuts, which would the president is a Democrat. He's a right-wing Democrat, but he's still a Democrat. The Senate is controlled by Democrats. You can't just magically get what you want. There are practical realities at play. You can't just get whatever you want because you want it. But I mean, that's a toddler's mentality, and that kind of fits neatly into what we know about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Although toddlers are much less racist and anti-Semitic, I got to be honest with you.
Yeah. Also, can she get some new AirPods? Those microphones are trash.
I know, it's odd because she also went on Steve Bannon's show to talk about it. Steve Bannon here, this is him speaking about how the Democrats should, how the Republicans should be voting for a motion to vacate. She was on his show as well. Marjorie Taylor Greene is close with the white supremacist wing of the party here, led by Bannon. These are his thoughts on I guess this is just Bannon. This is separate from her other interview with him. These are Bannon's thoughts on Mike Johnson.
Hi, this is Mark Barton at Sandy Hook Promise in Newtown, Connecticut.
And hi, this is Nicole Hockley, also from Sandy Hook Promise. So they want to throw out the current Speaker of the House. It's a terrible idea. I'm working with a group of members to change the rules so that they can't get that done, so that one knucklehead can't put the whole House into disarray by forcing another Speaker vote. We've got real problems. We have a southern border in crisis. We're $34 trillion in debt, and America needs to be projecting strength abroad. We should focus on that instead of these D.C. power games.
Rhino.
Okay, there's a lot of consternation in the chat, and we think there should be consternation, and there should be anger. I 100% agree with that. And people are saying, what can we do? I'll tell you what you can do about it. It's very simple. You see that guy right there, Dusty Johnson from South Dakota? He's the problem. Not the sole problem, but he's part of the problem. These
True. You know what? I agree. True. Continue fighting.
guys are going to get their votes today, and these people that, and Dusty Johnson, the 34 trillion deaths on the bridge, you haven't done anything about it, bro. You have backed the establishment on everything. And this is in South Dakota. The last time I looked at South Dakota, a MAGA state. Let's replay that. Because what this geek, and just look at that, you'll see that he's the personification of leadership. And this is the problem.
Just like to pause it for 1 second on Steve Bannon judging somebody by their looks.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to reflect on that. Look, Dusty Johnson, he right from South Dakota.
He is a geek, sure.
He is a geek, but he's basically judging him, I guess, by being of a slender figure. But I don't know. I mean, is he a geek in a I don't know, a 200-meter sprint race? Steve Bannon, you might have some trouble there.
I mean, he hasn't dissolved any bodies in acid in a hot tub, so maybe he's not as cool as some other people. But if that guy said like Trump is the God King and there are hordes of Chinese people coming across the border, then Steve Bannon wouldn't be calling him a geek.
No.
Correct. 100%.
It's funny to hear a Republican basically argue for a pre-Kevin McCarthy reality. The reason they're in this situation is because Kevin McCarthy was so, and that's why I find his ouster honestly just so delicious. He's resigning from Congress now because of it. He made a deal with the devil to get into power. And not the real devil, just to not freak out any of the people listening.
Nah, hold up. I'm calling it. I'm saying it's the real devil, okay?
Metaphorical deal with the devil, where basically he agreed with this far right far right element of his party, the attention-seeking element of his party. It's probably a better way to refer to it.
It's not fringe. Yeah, I think she's right. It's not fringe. It's just the Republican Party at this point. I'd call it the competing wing. Somebody get Stephen Miller to ID Satan, they're tight. Since they're still duking it out. Yeah, I wouldn't call it fringe, correct. I wouldn't call it fringe. Mephistopheles, maybe.
He agreed that, okay, I'll put this trigger in place where if there's anything that you disagree with me on, you can file a motion to vacate, and if you get enough votes, you can remove me from power. And most Republicans, I think, with that slim of a majority, and Pelosi didn't agree to it when she had a slimmer majority before that, by the way, wouldn't have said, this is the deal I'll do because it's just way too risky. But Kevin McCarthy is one of the biggest careerists in the Republican Party, and he agreed to it, and he made his own bed and got stabbed in the back, and what do you know? He basically brandished the knife and gave it to those 8 Republicans who ended up ousting him.
Correct. Definitely. Your neighborly sheep boaster? Definitely. Yeah, it can't be fringe when you're having numbers like this. Nobody has numbers like this. You see plus 20, plus 30. Yeah, not fringe.
Now, that knife is still around, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is holding it. It's just like, to continue this bad analogy, Mike Johnson has armor on because the Democrats made it for him. Keep going.
This is in South Dakota. The last time I looked at South Dakota, a MAGA state. Let's replay that. Because what this geek...
It's a wonderful name. Don't judge me. I'm not judging you. All right. If anything, it's a verdict on my pronunciation skills. Okay, on my on the fly pronunciation skills. They're not great. Okay, it took me a second.
And just look at that. You'll see that he's the personification of leadership. And this is the problem. Most of those guys up there are like this guy. That's the problem. You want to start with the problem? You got two things. You got to back President Trump. And President Trump's not perfect. But President Trump, is 9 billion times better than any alternative.
That sounds close to
We got to get him back in the White House and have his back. But also, you got to start changing these guys out. And this is in MAGA states. If you look at the most MAGA districts in my beloved South, most of the establishment, the cardinals on the appropriations, the establishments, the guys like Womack are all from those districts. This is not about close districts like Lawler and these guys in New York. I'm talking about MAGA red, Trump red districts represented by uniparty members. And then you got places like, in Montana, in South Dakota, places like this throughout the country where you have this beauty, right? And he's going to sit there and give you all the happy talk. He's not going to really come in and vote hard on hard nose with continuing to burying us, or to take the hard votes you need to take to say, no, we have to project strength. What does this guy know about strength? We have to project strength.
He says hardly. A hard nose, we have to be strong. As opposed to hey, let's be weak.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's he's just insulting this guy's general appearance.
He just hates this guy wears glasses.
I know, right,
He's
right.
just this guy's a nerd, and I would have shoved him in a locker.
He's from South Dakota, but not the real South that I love.
And his blood pressure's probably normal too.
He's on way less drugs than I am. And that's
He's so scary because he actually knows how to bring about a revolution. He's very calculated propagandist. He's not stupid. He's just evil. He was the brains on behind the self Tanner. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Wolfglen, welcome. Wait, do we really have to back Trump? Check notes, or he'll be under house arrest at least. Yeah, you have to back President Trump, okay? From these rhinos, okay? Rhinos, backing the Uniparty. These people don't care about any of that.
Fuck, it's weird.
I mean, his number one drug comes out of a bottle, but where is he? Do you know where he shoots this? Because it looks like he's in Palm Springs or
right. It must be Florida.
God forbid he be in liberal California. Anyway, though, that's that's Bannon's take on all of this, and Trump would be 9 billion times better.
He's not perfect, but he's just 9 billion times better than anyone else. Well, what does perfect mean at that point?
Right. He's not perfect, but he's basically Jesus Christ. So
I mean, have you seen the way these people talk about him? No, I'm kidding. I'm pretty sure that's what she's referencing.
Perfect.
And not perfect.
Got that wrong, Steve. Let's take another call here.
True. He's very measured in his statements. Alright, I forgot to do this one yesterday, but, man. It's stable genius. Millionaire who made, treated worse than Lincoln, Jesus Christ, and Mandela. Millionaire who made himself homeless and broke on purpose to prove he could make $1 million in 12 months for YouTube clicks, quits his bizarre social experiment over health concerns. Yeah, I mean, you really don't need to go any further than that, but Mike Blackwood had planned to essentially start over from nothing while proving to himself that he would be able to make $1 million in the space of just 12 months. Black had been an entrepreneur his entire life, but in July of 2020 decided to walk away from everything, giving up his car, house, and all of his money. I knew a lot of people who lost everything during the pandemic, and they got really depressed. I even had a friend that lost a 10 million business overnight. Black wanted to help his friends rebuild their lives and prove that luck or money was not necessary to become a millionaire. Just hard work. Hey, really quickly, where did Mr. Mike Black come from? I will give him props for actually going through it and proving himself wrong. Most people wouldn't do it. I bet a ton of people wish they could just quit being poor because of health concerns. Exactly. But Black ended his challenge after it took a toll on his health. I've officially decided to end the project early. Now, as much as it hurts me to do this, especially with just 2 months left, I feel like it's the right thing to do. I've been dealing with a lot of things personally, and recently something's happened that just pushed me over the edge. My personal health has declined to the point where I really need to start taking care of it. Throughout the entire project, we haven't shared it with you, but I've been in and out of the doctor's office. Black explained how he also suffered from 2 autoimmune diseases, which caused chronic fatigue, and then another attacked his joints. A lot of what come to light for me is what truly matters: health and gratitude. Black's idea was the $1 million comeback challenge that would see him start from nothing, only to build a new business, growing it to be worth $1 million in the space of the year. But that challenge was far harder than Black could ever anticipate. From the very first day as a homeless man, he experienced how rough life was out there on the streets and contemplated sleeping on a bench. People refused to give him water, and he was unable to find a place to stay the night. Eventually, a man with an RV allowed him to stay for several nights in his van. Black started off small and managed to make his first $300 by selling furniture online. One of the best things to sell are tables. I started taking ads on Craigslist in the free section and putting it on Facebook Marketplace and selling it for a profit. I acted as a middleman, handling all the logistics between buyer and seller. By the 5th day of the challenge, he had made enough money to buy himself a computer. Almost 2 weeks, he was able to secure his own office space, and just after 1 month, Black finally had his own place to rent. 3 months into the challenge, Black's entrepreneurial spirit appeared to shine through, having set himself up as a social media manager, managing to land clients even while coming up with his own brand of coffee. Look, where we're at now, we're not making millions, but look at this. Going to be living potentially in a mansion rent-free. I'm getting on calls with big tech companies and pitching them on running their social media. I'm starting a coffee brand. Hey, real quick, how much of this is on the fact that how much was this off the back of who he was? How much of these connections and opportunities came off the back of who he was and what he's doing, right? So he did not pick up the furniture. He was just a middleman, right? Look at where we're at right now. We're not making millions, but look at this. It's going to be potentially living in a mansion rent-free, yada, yada, yada. I mean, everything's going in the right direction. 3 months ago, I was homeless. 4 months into the challenge, on day 138, Black learned that his father was officially diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer and just started chemo, which led Black to question the entire project, but he continued. Health and family were much more important than the challenge, so I decided to stop the whole project. Black ended the challenge having completed 10 months with just 60 days left to run. He managed to make a grand total of $64,000. Despite failing to make the millions of dollars he aimed for, he was still in a successful experiment after demonstrating how it was possible to rebuild his life through the power of determination and your name. We should always remember to help those in need because it could be the opportunity that they need. Yeah, I really want to know like where he started from. Yeah, just work harder. Yeah, 98% on a free mansion. So no lesson learned. Nope, not at all. Not at all. What's this guy's name again? Mike Black? Like, I really want to know where he got, you know. Yeah, I don't know. Echo Wrestler Dragon, welcome. And how we need to ask where he got his contacts from in Austin. Yeah, right. Like, probably just off his name. He does have a leg up in terms of business experience and education, which is also a leg. Yeah, exactly. Assuming he managed to do that, it's basic survivorship bias as it cannot apply to all people, especially when it comes to systemic poverty. Right, and you're also just expected, like, to everybody. So, like, the answer would be, like, everybody just, I don't know, start some freaking online business selling stuff, question mark? Yeah. Dude had resources and education, no childcare. That's also true. As far as we know. Yeah, nice meme. Nice meme. I'd be okay with this experiment made to show how to start up from a more modest position and build yourself up, but not a problem. Sure, not a problem, but he's doing bootstraps though. Right. Also, like, in this context of this society, nah. Gotta be more realistic. Congress approved the TikTok ban. Why? It could still be years before it takes effect. So, hey, I guess silver lining, question mark. TikTok's fate in the US has never been more in doubt after Congress approved the bill that gives its parent company two options. Sell it to an approved buyer or see it banned. President Joe Biden signed this legislation today, Wednesday. It could take years for the TikTok ban to actually go into effect since its Chinese-owned company ByteDance is likely to challenge the statute in court. Even if it survives a legal challenge, no one is quite sure what would happen next. It'd probably be how soon could the potential ban actually take effect? It could probably be several years. According to the statute's language, ByteDance would have 9 months to divest and find an American buyer for TikTok once the bill is signed into law. Frontal lobe brain rotter is going to be divested and has 9 months to do it. Maybe he should have laid off the avocado toast. True. On top of that, the president can push back the deadline for an additional 90 days. That means without a sale, the soonest TikTok could shut down in the US could be more than a year from now. But it's more complicated than that. If ByteDance sues to block the implementation of that statute, which it said it would do, the bill would be taken up by the D.C. Court of Appeals, according to Isaac Boltanski, the director of policy for the financial services from BTIG, from the firm BTIG. Facebook is also a huge national security risk since foreign actors collect and buy data from that too. Sad thing is, it's not going to be addressing the overall issue. It's not designed to. As we went over previously, literally Stephen Miller is like queuing up a team of investors to literally buy TikTok, right? This is not about actually addressing the problems with social media companies. Yeah, this is not it. Polanski said ByteDance would file suit no later than this fall. While the case is under judicial review, the clock on any ban is effectively paused. Once the D.C. court issues its ruling, whichever side loses is likely to request a review by the Supreme Court. That would forestall the ban by another year, meaning nothing would go into effect until 2026. TikTok would argue that the ban is unconstitutional and that it also has taken steps to protect American users' data. The app has already launched an aggressive lobbying campaign featuring a small number of small business owners and influencers who say it's their lifeblood. Got to make enough noise so that they don't take away our voice, said TikTok user Dadlife Jason, who has 13.8 million followers. The bill stipulates that TikTok can continue to operate in the U.S. If ByteDance sells the app to a U.S.-approved firm. I recognize the security threat because of the CCP connection, but it needs to be a bigger overhaul in privacy regulation, not an outright ban. Then again, China outright bans far more than the U.S. does technically. I mean, like, I don't even know, like, how much of a connection there is. But fundamentally, the problem is user data, right? The problem is that a lot of social media companies have so much power and essentially free reign to just sell your data with impunity, or without impunity, with impunity, whatever. The point being is that they're, freely collecting information on you and selling it and making a massive profit off of you being the product. But this is nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with actually addressing the problems with social media companies and how big they are, and how much power they actually have. A lot of it's embedded in the CCP, that is true, but you could easily regulate privacy laws and not just ban Chinese products in the US. The Chinese government has less access to your data than the American government. True. Freaking true. 100%. Man. While large tech companies would love to get their hands on the platform, Bill Tansky said that the Biden administration regulators, not to mention GOP critics of big tech firms, had no interest in expanding the power, reach, or influence of such companies. The mobile devices are actually a bigger threat than the apps. No move to ban them. It's different when your own government has access versus a foreign government. Yeah, true. Yeah, our own government can imprison you. Because foreign actors don't work in the national security interests of the U.S. Ah, yes, the famous, concern that the, national security, states or agencies have for our privacy. The TikTok China rhetoric is just a smokescreen. Some other outside groups might emerge, at least one led by Steve Mnuchin. There it is, not Steve Miller. Steve Mnuchin, I'm sorry. Steve Mnuchin. Wrong ghoul. I apologize. I got the wrong ghoul. At least one led by Steve Mnuchin, who was Treasury Secretary under the Trump administration, has already sought to make a bid, telling CNBC in March that he was putting together an investor group. The Wall Street Journal has also reported that former Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick was looking for potential buying partners. While ByteDance, which owns other companies, is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, TikTok would fetch less than that, experts say, and especially if it's sold without its powerful recommendation algorithm. Melted John Oliver. What I mean is differently contextually when you have foreign states access to a country's data versus your own government. This applies to any country in its own security interests. Yeah, but that's no. Our own government poses more issues with our own freaking data than TikTok. Okay. While ByteDance, which owns other companies, is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, TikTok would fetch less than that, experts say, especially if it's sold without a powerful recommendation algorithm. Blansky says ByteDance is unlikely to agree to any kind of sale. The Chinese government has said as much, arguing that it regards the algorithm as a national security asset. Without that, the TikTok becomes less appealing to potential buyers. Does it when we have proven that Russia bots prompt up the Facebook MAGA cult to destabilize the electoral process? Yeah, but this has nothing to do with how much data your own government has on you. Like Russian bots that are created, or troll farms that are created, aren't the same as like your own government literally having access to your own data. It's not the same as these huge companies being able to sell and collect your own data. I don't know. I'm not saying it's a one-to-one issue, but we can talk about foreign actors accessing data versus your own government. Yeah, and I'm saying that it's not as big of an issue when it comes to TikTok, and the reason why they're saying is overblown. The reason I think it's overblown. I don't think it's as serious. I think it's I think I think they're using it as a veneer, as a veil. TikTok's algorithm doesn't allow easy suppression of the universally evil and dangerous leftist MAGA. TikTok users are being corrupted by regular people. Your data has more value to your own government than any other government. True. True. According to a survey from the financial services group Wedbush, approximately 60% of TikTok user respondents say they'd simply migrate to Instagram or Facebook in the event of a sale, while 19% say they'd go to YouTube. Analysts within a financial services company, Bernstein, arrived at similar estimates and notes to clients they forecast that Meta, which owns Instagram and Facebook, would take over as much as 60% of TikTok's U.S. ad revenue. So that's nice. Yeah, that's nice. Just consolidate power. Or consolidate more and more of the market into fewer and fewer hands. That's nice. With YouTube gaining 25%, Snapchat would also benefit. Snapchat is still a thing? I forgot. Snapchat was a thing. Boltanski said many political pundits remain surprised that the bill got over the finish line, but a wave of anxiety about both Chinese influence and the impact of social media on youth converged to get it passed, which solves none of it, by the way. Neither of those things are even remotely being addressed, assuming that that's even the problem. Like their own premise of why this needs to happen isn't even being addressed. This has been noteworthy, said Boltanski. Everyone is so conditioned to DC doing nothing or the bare minimum to keep the lights on. Question mark? As tensions with Beijing have grown, congressional lawmakers along with top law enforcement officials have warned that TikTok is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party and is a national security threat to the U.S. It screams out with national security concerns, said FBI director. Yeah, okay. U.S. officials fear that the Chinese government is using TikTok to access data from and spy on its American users, spreading disinformation and conspiracy theories. True. If it was China and data with apps they were really actually concerned with, they would be going after Temu and Chain. Right. Exactly. Fritz, welcome. Do you consider the TikTok ban racist? I don't think it's a VPN, maybe, but they're trying to make that not okay. If you access TikTok through a VPN, I think that's also not okay. I can't remember the full stipulations of the of the actual bill. It's just capitalist and state interest, that's it. Wholesale to and in far more aggressively. The House passed its standalone TikTok bill on a big bipartisan vote in March, but the Senate appeared in no hurry to take up the measure as the Commerce Chair Maria Cantwell drafted her own legislation. That all changed when Speaker Johnson, working with the House, rolled out the $95 billion foreign aid and supplemental plan that included the billions of dollars for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Included in that sweeping package was the TikTok bill. China has its own law that social media platforms need to follow. They don't ban specific corporations. Who will buy TikTok? Steve Mnuchin is in the running, and the guy from Blizzard. Included in that sweeping aid package, the TikTok bill was snuck in with some minor changes. Johnson pushed the package through his chamber and sent the House on recess, forcing the Senate to take it or leave it. Rather than further delay the critical long-stalled military and humanitarian aid, the Democratic-controlled Senate is moving quickly to pass the package, including the TikTok bill, which inevitably ended up passing. State wants to control the media narratives, and the U.S. capitalists want to own it for profit off instead. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Mnuchin. Mnuchin. I think we should do this one. Supreme Court to take Trump's claim of absolute immunity from criminal prosecution. This is absurd on its face, but yeah, here we are. Apparently, we're debating the idea of whether or not a president has absolute immunity. A very serious Supreme Court we've got going. Against a backdrop of a divisive 2024 presidential campaign, the U.S. Supreme Court on Thursday, tomorrow, will take up the monumental question of whether or not a president can be held accountable. Yeah, monumental. Of whether a former president turned presumptive GOP nominee can be criminally prosecuted for his efforts to stay in power in the last election. The case, Donald Trump versus the U.S., presents an unprecedented constitutional quandary for the court brought about by equally unprecedented actions by former President Trump in the aftermath of the 2020 elections, which he lost to Joe Biden by a margin of 7 million popular votes. The outcome could determine whether Trump faces a federal trial this year on 4 felony counts pressed by special counsel Jack Smith, including conspiracy to defraud the U.S., obstruction of an official proceeding, for his attempts to overturn the electoral vote count, certifying Biden's victory. Can you kill someone as president and be immune? Obviously not. We will see. We'll see what they decide, because at this point they're risking a precedent that could blow back in their face if Trump is not elected. Yeah, this shouldn't even be debated, right? Like, the Supreme Court should have been like, what are you talking about? Why are you sending this? Why are you sending us this? Presidents are not, presidents do not enjoy absolute immunity. Like, why are we even entertaining this idea? That's my take on it. You can be a felon and become president. Yes, that's true. Trump, who has pleaded not guilty, is seeking to quash the case on the claim that as former president he enjoys absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for any official acts during his tenure. He is the first American president, current or former, to ever face criminal charges. The president cannot function, and the presidency itself cannot retain its vital independence if the president faces criminal prosecutions for official acts once he leaves office. But they're not official acts, though. Trump's attorney wrote in the opening brief to the High Court. Denial of criminal immunity would incapacitate every future president with de facto blackmail and extortion while in office. That's not true. The only reason Trump even found himself in this position is because he did do things to attract, federal attention. I believe Trump will win. Biden is ancient, as opposed to Trump, who is also, check notes, ancient. Denial of criminal immunity would incapacitate every future president with de facto blackmail and extortion while in office and condemn him to years of post-office trauma at the hands of political opponents. Yeah, no, that's not how this works. The only reason you would be able to do that is because you actually, you actually did things to warrant the attention of federal, law enforcement. That's the only reason you're in this position, dude. Two courts have resoundingly rejected the former president's immunity arguments, including a unanimous 3-judge panel of this Court of Appeals for the right, because this is absurd, right? This is absurd. I don't follow politics except for an election year, but as far as I know, Biden started like 2 wars or something. True. A thing he did. But very famously. 2 wars are starting right now because of Biden. Israel war and Ukraine war. True. Biden started both of them. This is true. This is a very well-known fact. Hey man, you said you don't follow politics, so why would you have an opinion? Why would you have an opinion on things if you don't follow politics? That sounds kind of silly to say things without actually looking into them before typing out. You do realize you can always just like take a second before you actually type out the sentences that you're typing out to just kind of check up on whether or not that makes sense. At this point, I cannot take this person's opinion seriously. I have a certain threshold of sanity if I disagree with a person. No, this is not based on any reality. I'm basically memeing at this point. And okay, life, ADT, bro. Biden at freaking 5 back-to-back wins. Ain't no way the government decided to give the workers a win right when the polls were neck to neck. Former President Trump had become Citizen Trump with all the defenses of any other criminal defendant, said the panel. Former President Trump lacked any lawful and discretionary authority to defy federal criminal law and is answerable for his court and conduct. The appeals court warned that if Trump's constitutional theory were accepted, it would collapse our system of separated powers by putting a president above the law. Smith, the special counsel, argues in his brief to the High Court that Trump's assertion lacks any historical precedent and undermines the founder's vision of a presidency restrained in power. If that was true, why has no previous president ever been blackmailed? Yeah, well, it turns out that, no previous president has done the type of things that this guy has, so, you know. Welcome, Herct. No president has been treated worse than Jesus before, so that's why it's true. At least a few of them definitely committed SA. And they didn't get investigated. I mean, heck. Supreme Court justices. Well, it was legal to do that to it was legal to do that to people you owned. Oh. Isn't most of the IDF not from Israel? I don't know. The effective functioning of the presidency does not require the effective functioning of the presidency does not require that a former president be immune from accountability for these alleged violations of federal criminal law. To the contrary, a bedrock principle of our constitutional order is that no person is above the law, including the president. True. Like, I don't understand. Like, the appeals court were very clear about this, and yet the Supreme Court decided that they're going to take this. That's pretty absurd. Everyone has dirt on everyone, so you either play a dirty game or don't get a chance to play. Trump just stopped playing the rules that they gave him, and that's why he got cut out. Maybe. Or maybe he's just so egregiously obvious that they couldn't ignore it. A trial date in Smith's federal election against Trump was initially set for March 4th in the U.S. District Court, but was delayed awaiting a final decision by the Supreme Court. A ruling on the immunity claim is expected to be in before July, as soon as mid-May. The justices could uphold the appeals court decision in its entirety, clearing the way for the trial this summer, or they could take a middle road approach, spelling out what actions qualify for immunity and which do not, sending the case back to the lower courts for further proceedings. Such an outcome would rule out a trial before the November election, which is probably what he's hoping for, honestly. Most legal analysts says it's highly unlikely that the Supreme Court, with its conservative majority and 3 Trump appointees, will endorse Trump's sweeping assertion of absolute immunity. In a 2020 decision, the same court rejected a similar immunity claimed by Trump in an attempt to reject the grand jury subpoena for the tax returns. A majority of Americans, 51%, think that the federal indictment of Trump related to January 6th and his efforts to overturn the election is serious, according to a poll from ABC. Just over half of the respondents, 52%, say that Trump should have been charged with a crime in this case. 32% said he should not have. The classic. Man, that's so consistent. Whew. You can bet that it's always that little, like, it can be anywhere from like 25 to like 30-ish%. You can always bet on this number. At the same time, 46% think that the charges against Trump are politically motivated, while 40% do not, per the poll conducted using Ipsos Knowledge Panel. Trump's legal team has argued that the impeachment process is the only check on the president, on a president's conduct allowed by the Constitution, even as they concede that a president who is impeached, convicted, and removed from office could subsequently face criminal prosecution for the same acts. Trump was impeached by the House in 2021, yada, 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 but he was acquitted by the Senate. The former president argues that his actions were part of a legally legitimate effort to ensure election integrity. Nonsense. Smith insists that former presidents have never been immune from prosecution and have always been aware of potential prosecution. He cites in the court briefs the case of former President Nixon, accepting a pardon from Gerald Ford as evidence that Nixon believed prosecution was possible after he had resigned. While Supreme Court precedent has limited civil litigation against presidents, the special counsel contends that criminal matters are different and that there are layers of legal safeguards in the system to prevent partisan harassment and protect due process. Even if liability could not be premised on official acts, Smith wrote on to the justices in his brief, the case should be remanded for trial with the district court to make evidentiary and instructional rulings in accordance with this court's decision. Petitioner Trump should seek appellate review of those rulings if necessary following final judgment. After oral arguments on Thursday tomorrow, the justices will vote during their weekly private conference and begin drafting opinions. They're expected to be released before the court's term ends in June. So, yeah, that begins tomorrow. I'm thinking Trump is going to be held in jail because of his big mouth soon. Ah, man, if only. I don't disagree that he should. I don't disagree that he should. If any Joe decided to talk about a judge like that, they would be thrown in prison before the trial even started. Correct. Trump has like continuously violated these gag orders and has gotten nothing but a slap on the wrist, if anything. But yeah, I agree. I don't think any government servant ought to be allowed to break the law, especially criminal ones, but that's just what you call common sense. Yeah, I mean, that's just like, it's absurd that the Supreme Court is even mulling this over when like the lower court and the appeals court were pretty freaking clear on this. I mean, whatever. The FTC just voted to ban non-compete agreements, so that's cool. That's good. That's a good thing. The final rule would ban new non-compete arguments for all workers and require companies to let current and past employers know that they won't enforce them. Companies will also have to throw out existing non-compete agreements for most employees, although in a change from the original proposal, the agreements may remain in effect for senior executives. Quote, it is profoundly unfair for people to be stuck in jobs that they want to leave, not because they lack better alternatives, but because non-compete precludes another firm from fairly competing for their labor, requiring workers instead to leave their industries or their homes to make ends meet, said FTC Commissioner Rebecca Slaughter, and said in a prepared remark. The new rule is set to go into effect 120 days after it's published in the Federal Register, but its future is uncertain as pro-business groups are already opposing the rule and expect to take legal action. So I'm like basically like that's like fundamentally the only thing we need to know at this point, because like it could very well be that we find ourselves with big business interests destroying this. But overall, I think that this should have been done 10,000 years ago. But where was this when I signed 5 of those? Yeah. Perhaps they will be nullified. If this rule is allowed to stand, then all non-compete clauses would be nulled out, would be nullified. They're thrown out. So business groups say non-compete agreements are critical for protecting proprietary information and intellectual property. Nah. Although the rule would not ban other methods for protecting that information, including non-disclosure and confidentiality agreements, they also question the agency's authority to issue the blanket retroactive ban. Nah, go F yourselves. They immediately become unenforceable. Yeah, exactly. And not just like any new ones that are not allowed. Anyone that is under a non-compete, that would be nullified. That would be done. Assuming this is allowed to stand, that would be correct. Finally, advertisements that are actually suited to things that I like. Occasionally, I'll get these like Magic the Gathering advertisements. I didn't realize they made a Doctor Who set. Was that one a Sam Cedar card? From here, kind of does, doesn't it? No, it's Jeff Goldblum. There we go. That's a little better. Now these are these are my kind of advertisements. That's cool that they are coming out with sets from different, universes. That's cool. Got the Jurassic Park and the Doctor Who stuff. My sister just sent me a Jurassic Park set, and I got one version of Dr. Ian Malcolm. There's like several different versions of this card that do different things, but yeah, that's pretty cool. ADT, don't give in to this capitalism. A Time Lord doc looking like a snack. I'm gonna be honest, I never looked into the Doctor Who set, I'm gonna be honest. Pay to stay. Florida inmates charged for prison cells long after incarceration. Yeah, apparently that's a thing. It's a common saying, you do the crime, you do the time. But when people are released from prison, freedom is fragmented. It marks the start of a new hardship impacting families and communities. Part of that is due to a Florida law that many people are unaware of, further punishing second chance citizens, preventing them from truly moving on. Yeah, apparently, if you manage to land yourself in prison, they have this thing called pay to stay, which charges inmates for their prison stay like a hotel they were forced to book. Florida law says it costs $50 a day based on the person's sentence. It's based on the person's sentence. Even if they are released early, paying for a cell they no longer occupy, and regardless of their ability to pay. Not only can the state bill an inmate $50 a day even after they're released, Florida can also impose a new bill on the next occupant of that bed, potentially allowing the state to double, triple, or quadruple charge for the same bed. Nice. Cool. Very normal. Very normal. Critics call it unconstitutional, said Shelby Hoffman. Shelby Hoffman calls it a hole with no ladder to climb out. I work 12-hour shifts, Shelby Hoffman said. Driving to work, Hoffman is a part-time Tampa General Hospital Crystal Rivers clinical staff. The healthcare field has always has been a great interest to me. She's worked hard to get where she's at, but she wants more. Hoffman is on the track to earn her bachelor's degree this year. Yeah, seems cruel and definitely unusual. 100%. That's the argument exactly against it. Exactly. Exactly correct. Profit motive in criminal justice is just great. Phenomenal. Yep. Cool. Awesome. Very good stuff. Very good. Very good stuff we have going on in this country. At this point in my life, with everything I've been through, all my experiences, my desirable goal is to work in case management. As somebody who is in recovery, doing case management is my way of being part of the solution. And now where I'm at today, I'm truly being stopped by one single barrier, and it's a $. Florida has what's called an exemption from disqualification for certain employment opportunities. The state takes into consideration the time period that has elapsed since the criminal incident, the nature of the harm caused to the victim, and any other evidence or circumstance indicating that you will not present a danger working directly with children or vulnerable adults. They told me that you're not eligible because you owed over $120,000 for an incarceration fee from the state of Florida. I cried. I was hysterically crying. I literally felt like my entire past just punched me in the face. $127,000. When I was 13, my parents split up, so it caused a lot of dysfunction. It was honestly just one of those. I needed to find something to distract me, so I found a boyfriend that unfortunately got me hooked on opiates. When Hoffman was a teenager, she said she was snorting them, smoking them, and then eventually started shooting them. After 18, she was charged for pawning a stolen item and burglary. Both of those charges are drug influence. Ever since, 10 years ago, I've never caught another charge. She told the judge in her case she couldn't overcome the addiction on her own. I told him, listen, Your Honor, if you put me on the streets, I'm going to die. I need help. There was another girl there, and that was something she shouldn't have been doing. And instead of getting involved and doing what they asked, the director kicked me out. So technically, that's a failure to complete your terms of the court, said Hoffman. Because of that, the judge sentenced Hoffman to 7 years in prison. She served 10 months after the judge allowed her to participate in a youth offender boot camp. To my knowledge, I'd paid everything off, completed every term that was on that paper. I petitioned the courts to get off of probation. He clapped me for saying, you out of anybody deserve this. Congratulations, Mrs. Hoffman, she said. When I got released from prison, he wrote me a handwritten Christmas card telling he knew I could do it. Within 3 years when applying for the exemption to work in case management, her dream job is when Hoffman found out that she, like thousands of others, still owe the state $50 a day for the 7 years of her original sentence, i.e. $127,750. Cool. Nice. Quote, I was completely shocked that a judge could modify every term in my packet in my court case, but you charged me for a cell I didn't occupy? I felt so tricked and so fooled. There's no ladder with them. There's nothing that you can do, apparently, that will ever truly allow you to be a second chance anything. There isn't, and they made sure of it. Hoffman's grandmother, Linda, helped pay off what she said was thousands of dollars in other fines and fees. Quote, so she can get a job so she doesn't violate her probation. It's been years and years and years. We thought everything was taken care of, and she's proved that she's a good member of society, so now why is this tagging along behind her? I don't understand it. I thought it had to be a mistake, and it's not. Hoffman hired an attorney in an attempt to modify her incarceration costs to the 10 months she was in prison. The judge denied this motion, pointed to state law saying a court may not modify a legal sentence imposed on it by more than 60 days after the imposition, and incarceration costs are based upon the length of the sentence imposed by the court at the time of sentencing. Whew. I've been out of prison 7.5 years at this point when I've trekked so hard to get a track record that I have now, and you're imposing something that I can't pay off in a lifetime, so I'm stuck. Lynn said her grandmother is not alone. Her granddaughter is not alone. I had a mindset because my dad was a federal prison guard that you could do crime, you do the time. But when I actually lived through this, I thought this was not the way it is. There's no compassion shown to anybody who makes a mistake and pays the price. And she did. The I-Team contacted the Fines and Fees Justice Center based in Washington to ask how state law can allow an individual to be charged for a cell they didn't occupy if they were released earlier than the time they were sentenced. Lisa Foster, co-executive director of Fines and Fees Justice Center, replied, "Well, we think it's unconstitutional." Get up! All right, I'm getting up. I'm getting up. I do need to pause for a second before I finish this. Cheney's people did that instead of one another. Foster pointed to the executive's excessive fines clause because it's not proportionate either to the underlying offense nor to a person's financial circumstance. Yeah. 1 second. All right, let it be known that I am... okay, fine. I'm going to get up and I'm also going to dab, okay? I'm going to do a 2-for-1. There's the dab, okay? In case you didn't catch it. There's the dab. And now I'm making it known that I'm getting up and taking a brief walk around the studio. Oh. Almost knocked my headphones off. There you go. Whew. ADT's chair looking comfy. Actually, I'm gonna be honest. This chair is pretty freaking comfortable. For it being one of those like gamer chairs, it's actually pretty freaking comfortable. Did you cover the FCC net neutrality thing over overtime threshold increase and the Department of Transportation airline decision? Just some good news to balance out the bad. Shoot, no. I might have to cover some of that tomorrow. I did cover the non-compete clauses. I did cover the non-compete clause, so that was good. So they want to restore net neutrality. Is that the case? FCC reinstates net neutrality. Better than my stacking plastic pool chair I'm in. I agree with NOK Life. I think that's pretty stylish. All right. I gotta finish this one. You said it's important to those who are unaware to know that the vast majority of people in the criminal justice system are poor. Roughly 80% quality qualify for the services of a public defender. That means by definition they're indigent. Indigent? Poor AF. Foster said the $120,000 plus Hoffman owes to the state of Florida is a life sentence. It will be on her credit history. It will make it difficult for her to get a job, for her to get housing, for her to buy a car, for her to do anything else that she needs to do to be able to return to society. They have a lien attached to anything you get in life. This is so freaking cruel, man. I have a family now. I have a daughter, a wonderful husband. I have a home. I have all of these accomplishments I've worked so hard to maintain. I've worked so hard to maintain, she said, to not be given the opportunity to have a realistic, reasonable, obtainable goal to rectify all and be done with it. So I can have a career and I can do the things that I want to do and I can accomplish all the goals I have. And that's why this is important. And somebody needs to make these goals realistic for these people. Since 2019, Illinois and New Hampshire have repealed their pay-to-stay laws for these state prisons. The Fines and Fee Justice Center said that this last session it worked with state legislators on a bill that would have allowed judges to do an ability to pay assess when imposing fines and fees, and it failed. A life sentence to whatever it was, for whatever it was ridiculous. It is. Like, she got put in prison for, like, a burglary and a attempt to sell a stolen item or something like that. Her sentence was supposed to be 7 years. And she got out in 10 months because of all the programs that she went through and all the progress that she showed, that she, actually wanted, to change, and was released. The judge congratulated her, but apparently she owed $50 a day for every single day of that 7-year sentence. That's absurd. That's absurd. Yeah, for 7 years. That's right. This makes me big sad. I definitely paid the hotel for a year's stay when I booked the weekend. That you didn't even want to book. You were forced to book. Life could be so free and beautiful, and this is how we choose to treat each other. I don't disagree. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to take a look at that stuff. NOK Life. Net neutrality, overtime threshold increase. Nice. Department of Transportation airline decision. I gotta look into this stuff. But for now, I gotta get going, folks. It's just hitting the threshold. Folks, I gotta get going, but thank you guys so much for showing up. Thank you for mixing it up in the chat. I appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the channel. Everything helps. Thank you for the follows, biddies, subscriptions. For the folks on the YouTube, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for liking the stream and all that awesome stuff. You guys are what makes this channel grow. We are here Monday through Thursday. Tomorrow the stream is going to be at a different time. I'm thinking instead of like 5, because I can't really do that, I'm going to push it back 2 hours. I'm going to push it back 2 hours to 3. Tomorrow the stream is going to be different. Have a good night. Thank you, Kamikazion. So tomorrow the stream is going to be a little different. I still want to stream. It's just going to be at a different time. So we'll see how that plays out. If it doesn't, I'll still make an announcement. If I can't, I can't. If I can't, I can't. But otherwise, 3 p.m. exactly. 3 p.m., folks. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Firefly. Michael Hasser and Heat, thank you for modding the chat. I appreciate it. Folks, it's time for me to go get some food. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 3 p.m., hopefully. Hang tight, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.